Hello, my dear ones. Welcome to Granny's Whisper. Before we begin, let me ask, where are you listening from tonight? Drop your city or your country in the comments. I love to know where my family of listeners gather from. If you are new here, thank you for tuning in. If you enjoy our stories, please like, share, and subscribe. She never planned to be anybody's mother. She hadn't planned to fall in love with a man who had lost his fortune. Before we dive in, I would like to thank you again for visiting Granny's Whisper channel. Now, let's begin. Mara, one of the most renowned wealthy man's daughters, never planned to be anybody's mother. She hadn't planned to fall in love with a man who had lost his fortune, or to hold a stranger's child against her chest while the baby's twin sister wailed for milk she could not give. She hadn't planned to be called auntie in the market while boiling porridge at dawn and sewing buttons at midnight, or to have her name erased from the family list as if she'd been a stray wind that wandered in and forgot to leave. But life is a sly storyteller, and it dragged her down alleys she never meant to choose. Mara was 19 when she started in the corner shop, a narrow place that smelled of soap, pepper, and warm bread. She wore a cheap wig, kept her head down, and called customers sister and boss, hiding the truth that her father was a rich, controlling man she'd fled. She wanted to learn hunger without her father's wealth cushioning it. 2 months into her self-imposed exile, a man walked in. Daniel. He looked tired, with a jaw set hard against pain. He bought baby formula with trembling hands, counting the tins like a prayer. "Twins?" Mara asked. "Yes," he said. "Girls. Nia and Nova." His voice cracked on Nova's name. When he came up 50 pence short, Mara quietly adjusted the till and saved him the embarrassment. Daniel thanked her with a look of desperate gratitude that would later become a bond neither could have predicted. "I live just across the road, number 8. I will bring you the balance." Daniel's story unfolded in fragments. Once a wealthy entrepreneur with properties and contracts, he lost everything. First to a warehouse fire, then to a partner's betrayal and endless lawsuits. He had married Elena for love, but her parents never approved of the union. When Elena died giving birth to their twin daughters, the estranged in-laws offered no help. When Mara brought a bag he'd forgotten back to his flat, she intended only to drop it off. But she found him there, helpless between 2 crying infants, the air cold and heavy. Without thinking, she took one baby in her arms and began humming softly. The child's tiny body relaxed against her. From that day, she started coming by after work, bringing food, cleaning, helping however she could. And soon what began as kindness became something deeper. Daniel and Mara grew close in the quiet hours of survival. They laughed softly over the twins' stubborn cries, shared tea at the cracked kitchen table, and learned each other's silences. Sometimes, after putting the babies to bed, they would sit by the window and talk until the moon fell asleep. Daniel would tell her about the man he used to be. The office with glass walls, the dreams that had burned with his warehouses. "I used to sign checks and feel powerful," he confessed once, his voice low. "Now I can't even buy proper milk." "You're still rich," Mara whispered, "just not in the way the world counts it." He looked at her then. Really looked. And something in his tired eyes softened. It was small things that made her heart fall for him. The way he tucked the blanket around the babies before himself, how he smiled even when the cupboards were empty, how he whispered, "Thank you," every time she showed up. As if gratitude alone could feed a family. One night after a long day, they both sat exhausted on the floor. Nia and Nova were asleep. Daniel reached out and took her hand, rough, hesitant, trembling. "Without you," he said, "I wouldn't have made it this far." Mara smiled, her eyes wet. "Without you, I wouldn't have learned what love actually looks like." Their hands stayed intertwined until the dawn. Years went by. The twins grew, bright, mischievous, full of laughter. Daniel's health, however, began to fade. The stress, the loss, the sleepless nights had taken their toll. Bills piled up. Hope thinned. One night, after he had collapsed from exhaustion, Mara decided she could no longer hide her truth. She knelt beside him. "Daniel," she said quietly, "there's something I need to tell you. My father, he's rich, very rich. I ran away from that life to find something real. But now I can't stand by and watch you suffer. Let me help. Let me rebuild what you lost." He stared at her, stunned. "You're one of them?" "I was," she said, "but now I'm yours." And she meant it. Together they rebuilt, not the empire Daniel once had, but something steadier and honest. Mara negotiated with her father, who agreed to invest quietly, setting up a trust that could never be revoked. The business grew again. The house was repaired. Hope came back in small, gentle waves. Daniel proposed to Mara one spring morning, and they married in a simple ceremony with the twins carrying rings tied on ribbons. Though her father did not attend, he sent a letter, short, proud, and stubborn. "If you must be defiant, at least be wise about it." For many years they lived in peace and quiet love. But time, however, has a way of testing every good story. Daniel's health faltered, tiredness that turned into chronic illness. Years flowed by. The twins, bright and ambitious, left home for city jobs. Daniel's health wavered but held, until one autumn when the illness worsened. As Daniel lay weak, a cousin arrived. He was the kind who appeared only when funerals loomed, wearing a suit like a flag and a voice sharpened with greed. While Mara stepped out for medicine, the cousin whispered to the twins, "You know she's not your mother. When your father dies, protect what's yours before she takes everything." The poison took root. The girls returned to their father's bedside, their eyes cool with questions they didn't voice. Daniel died on a bright Tuesday, holding Mara's hand as she whispered the story of their first meeting. Mara expected grief to unite the family, but instead it turned the house into a quiet battlefield. After the funeral, Nova and Nia confronted her. "You're not our mother," Nia said. "We have to secure the estate," Nova added. Their words sliced through Mara, though she answered calmly. She laid out the trust papers Daniel had signed, the company shares divided equally among the three of them. The house protected so no one could be evicted. But the girls, stirred by the cousins' manipulation and the ache of their biological mother's absence, were not ready to listen. Mara asked them to fetch a shoebox from her wardrobe. Inside lay the girls' baby curls, hospital tags, childhood drawings, and a photograph of their late mother, Elena. "That's your mother," Mara said softly. "I talk to her sometimes. I never tried to replace her. I only tried to keep you fed and loved." The girls' anger faltered, but grief still held them. Weeks passed in tense silence until a cleaner named Irene, grateful for a past kindness from Daniel, revealed that the cousin had bragged about ousting Mara. Mara invited everyone to dinner, served Daniel's favourite stew, and calmly confronted the cousin with Irene's testimony. She revealed the legal truth. The company belonged equally to her and the twins, and the house was hers until death, after which it would go to the daughters. Daniel had planned it that way, anticipating grief and family conflict. The cousin stormed out, exposed. But the girls were not finished. 2 weeks later, Mara received a solicitor's letter, one she hadn't expected. Nova and Nia had produced what they claimed was their father's true will, a document that suddenly appeared, leaving everything solely to his biological children. Mara recognized the handwriting at a glance. It wasn't Daniel's. The twins came to the house the next evening, their faces tight with defiance. "This is Dad's real will," Nova insisted, sliding the forged document across the table. "You should step aside." Mara opened a drawer and calmly laid out a thick, sealed envelope with a notary's stamp. "This," she said, "is the only valid will your father ever signed. It's registered, witnessed, and certified. And I have copies with the family solicitor and the bank." She broke the seal and unfolded the original. In Daniel's unmistakable script, it named Mara as the sole heir, granting her complete control of the house and company, with the option, clearly written, to share ownership as she saw fit. The twins' faces went pale. "I never wanted every penny," Mara said, her voice steady but sharp as winter air. "Your father trusted me because he knew how grief can twist love. I intended to divide everything equally, 1/3 each. But you tried to steal with lies and ink." She looked from one daughter to the other, eyes fierce. "Here is my choice. If you accept the 3-way division, the company and the house remain in our names together. If you refuse, if you keep treating me like a thief, I will donate or bequeath every single asset, including what would have been yours, to someone who understands respect. I will leave you nothing, because cruelty does not deserve inheritance." The room went silent except for the clock's slow tick. Nova's lip trembled. Nia gripped the edge of the table, knuckles white. They had expected pleading, not power. Now the question for the world. Whether Mara's warning was harsh or fair would be argued for years. Some neighbours later said she defended herself with grace. Others whispered she was merciless. That night, the twins said nothing. They left the forged will on the table as if it burned. Weeks later, they returned, chastened, tearful, finally ready to sign the equal share agreement. The cousin disappeared from their lives, his schemes wasted. The company remained a steady stream of honest work. The house stayed filled with the memories of both Eleanor and Daniel. Mara kept caring for the girls, though now they understood exactly whose strength had held their world together. And still listeners wonder, was Mara fair? Or did she go too far when she threatened to cut them off completely? What do you think, my dear?